I've been using the iPhone 16 Pro Max for a year now, and the successor to the iPhone 16s will be here soon. So I thought I'll take a look at the iPhone 16 Pro Max a year later, an exit interview of sorts. I'm going to split this video into these categories, so feel free to jump around. The last truly revolutionary change in the iPhone's design occurred with the iPhone X in 2017. Since then, every single iPhone has evolved from that design. The iPhone 12 reintroduced flat edges, and the 15 Pro iPhones introduced titanium in favor of stainless steel. The 16 Pro Max is a simple evolution of the 15 Pro Max before it. I still think the 15 Pro Max is a better size overall, but the slight increase in size on the 16 Pro Max allows for a larger battery. I personally welcome the slightly larger display too, since it lets you see a bit more on the screen. However, I'm not a fan of the added weight. The 15 Pro Max felt perfect in hand. While the 16 Pro Max feels good, it's not as comfortable as the 15 Pro Max. I hope this is the biggest and the heaviest that these phones get. On the subject of design, let's talk about the colors too. The normal iPhone 16 series had great color this time, but the Pro models, like every other year, had muted colors. I bought the 16 Pro Max in Desert Titanium, but that was only because I had the 15 Pro Max in Natural Titanium and I wanted a change. Desert Titanium is a nice color, but I still think Natural Titanium is the best color from all the choices that we have. I hope one day Apple gives us colorful Pro iPhones. With the change to titanium with the 15 Pro Max, the phones have become really durable. My 16 Pro Max looks as good as new from day one. I mostly use my phones caseless, but this time I had the Nomad magnetic leather bag attached most of the time, mostly because it felt nice. But the sides of the phones have always been exposed and I never babied my phone. I don't think I can see a single scratch on my phone, and that's simply amazing for the phone to look after this after a year of use. The rumors about the new iPhones are that they're going to switch back to aluminium, which, for durability at least, I'm not a huge fan of. The chips on the iPhone have become the benchmark for the whole smartphone industry, and maybe even the laptop industry. When was the last time an A-series chip from Apple was deemed slow? The A18 Pro has been an absolute beast on the last year's Pro iPhones, and it handles all tasks at ease. The new processor also allowed for new features like 4K 120fps recording and a faster neural engine for Apple Intelligence. But in my opinion, this iPhone is not necessarily about what it can do today. It's about being able to keep up in, say, 5 years' time. It's about future-proofing. There's a lot of legroom for the future when the operating system demands more processing power. And if history is an indication, the phone will still deliver in half a decade's time. When the 16 Pro Max launched, Apple claimed that this phone will have the best battery life on any iPhone. After a year of use, I 100% agree with them. I have a charging limit set to 80% of the battery most of the time, and that is more than adequate for my daily use, except when I know I'm going out and gonna use my phone for photography. I do not charge my battery to the full 100% every day as I have no need for it. Around 80% of the days last year, I'm sure I had my phone set to stop charging at 80%. Before I move on to a new iPhone, I like to see what my battery health is at. Today, my battery health on this iPhone is at 95% after about 330 cycles. One thing I would note here is that my battery health stayed on 100% on this phone around June, just before I put the iOS 26 developer beta. The iOS 26 developer beta was very rough on the phone, and my phone would get really hot. And if there's one thing that batteries don't like, it's heat. I'm sure if I had used this phone without putting the developer beta, the battery would have stayed much close to a full 100%, or even a full 100%. All this is to say is that the battery life and the battery health on this phone is exceptional. I just hope the future iPhones can only get better from this. When comparing the 16 Pro Max to the model it replaced, which is the 15 Pro Max, the photographs are very similar. Even on the upgraded 48 megapixel ultra-wide lens, the differences are not much. There's a bit more detail in the macro shots, but it isn't worthy of being wowed or anything like that. The 5x lens is the same as the one from the 15 Pro Max, and in good lighting it does a great job, and in low light it still does a decent job. This is my favorite lens out of all three. I wish in the next iPhone Apple would do something else to make this even better. The 48 megapixel main lens is pretty much the same from last year, that is from the 15 Pro Max, but it has a faster sensor. Pair this with the A18 Pro chip and taking photos in ProRAW feels noticeably faster. Not that the Pro iPhones in the past have been slow, but this iPhone definitely feels faster than iPhones in the past. I'm someone that upgrades the iPhone yearly just for the newer camera. And from what I have said so far, you would think that I'm not much impressed with this camera over the 15 Pro Max. But that is where my single favorite feature of the iPhone 16s come in. The new photographic styles on these iPhones were a game changer. There are many photographic styles to choose from, 14 in total, with 5 undertones and 9 moods. All of these styles have a varying tone, color and palette settings that can be adjusted. But if you were to just apply a style and take a picture with zero adjustments, the photos come out great as the defaults are pretty good. Personally, I still mostly shoot in ProRAW as it offers more flexibility when editing. What I would love, maybe in the next iPhone, is the ability to shoot both the HEIC with a photographic style and a ProRAW at the same time. Because right now with the 16 Pro Max, you can either take a photo with a photographic style or a RAW picture. I'm sure the A18 Pro can handle taking both these pictures simultaneously easily. And it looks like a choice that Apple has made for the user to either shoot in HEIC or in ProRAW. If there's one thing I would change about the 16 Pro Max, it would be the ability to shoot both at the same time. During the iPhone 16 keynote, Apple spent a lot of time talking about camera control, but I think this is the single greatest iPhone camera related feature that was released with the 16 Pro Max. Not just the 16 Pro Max, but the whole iPhone 16 series. The new photographic styles and the freedom they give you to let your images look however you want by setting a default style is simply great. I made a dedicated video on camera control after 100 days of use. I will link it in the top right and also in the description if you want to check it out. At first, camera control tried to do a lot and it failed. On the 15 Pro Max, I used the action button to open the camera. When the iPhone 16s launched with the camera control, the action button still felt as if it was the fastest way to get to the camera. This was because with camera control, you had to have the display turned on to get into the camera, or you had to double click the camera control button to get to the camera when your phone was locked. In photography, those extra seconds that you take to get to the camera can mean that you are missing the shot you wanted to take. With iOS 18.2, Apple fixed this. Now a single press gets you straight to the camera. That changed everything and my muscle memory is now locked in. I have left the action button for other things, like triggering voice mode in ChatGPT. With iOS 26 camera control, it's getting even more customization. I will make a dedicated video once iOS 26 drops, so consider subscribing if you want to see that. One last thing is that long pressing the camera control launches visual intelligence, which has been super useful. It's powered by ChatGPT, and I've pointed at objects and gotten great answers instantly. For me, camera control has become the fastest way to both access the camera and also visual intelligence. A lot of people say the camera control is useless and it's a gimmick, but I totally disagree. I think if anything, the camera control is underrated. I just hope Apple doesn't remove it in the future iPhones. The main video related feature on this iPhone was the ability to shoot 4K at 120 frames per second. I think I might have used this once or twice, but it is great to know that the phone is capable of doing this. Apart from that, just like the pictures, the videos look very similar to the iPhone 15 Pro Max from last year. But that isn't a bad thing. If you want a top-notch video production device that fits in your pocket, the iPhone is the way to go. And Apple is running laps around the competition. When Apple introduced the iPhone 16 series last September, all the marketing was around this feature which was coming soon. During the course of the year, we got some Apple Intelligence related features. However, the major crux of what they promised was never delivered. The phones that was introduced with the tagline, "Hello Apple Intelligence," became built for Apple Intelligence during the course of the year. Mind you, there are some AI related features that I use a lot, like the cleanup feature on the Photos app, which just works great for me. But the most important feature, if you ask me, is the personalized Siri features that Apple demoed during WWDC 24. They are still not here. Apple has said that they are coming in the next year, which is 2026, and it is a shame that they could not release it during the time of this iPhone. Will it even come in 2026? With all the challenges Apple is facing in AI, it's anyone's guess. The one thing that we keep hearing in tech is that not to buy anything on promises of some feature that might be coming in the future. And that was very true of Apple Intelligence. The 16 Pro Max is an iteration of the iPhones before that. There are a lot of quality of life improvements that I personally have enjoyed during the course of using this iPhone. At the end, it still feels like an iPhone from the years before. But that's not a bad thing. It's a phone and an ecosystem that you can rely on. The cameras are great, the battery life and performance is outstanding, and the phone still feels premium. But the disappointment is the unavailability of Apple Intelligence. And this wouldn't be such a big deal if Apple hadn't made the whole marketing about this phone around Apple Intelligence. Yes, Apple is still behind on the AI race and Siri is bad as it ever gets. But all the major AI platforms do have an iPhone app, and it would have been okay. Apple could and should have marketed this phone as just another Pro iPhone or focused on the new photographic styles and camera control. In the future, say a decade's time, I do not want to remember the iPhone 16 Pro Max as the phone that failed on the promise of Apple Intelligence, but as the phone that gave us camera control, photographic styles, and 4K at 120 fps. So whether you are still holding onto this phone or considering picking up a 16 Pro Max now at a lower price than the newer models, it is a choice you won't regret. Even if Apple's full intelligence suite doesn't fully arrive, this remains a solid device that firmly carries forward the iPhone's legacy.